Have you ever been in a situation where someone gave you an uneasy feeling, but you couldn't quite put your finger on why? Maybe their actions or words made you uncomfortable, but you weren't sure what was off. We're going to talk about those subtle cues, those red flags that often get overlooked. We're going to shine a light on the patterns of behavior that can help you recognize potential threats before a situation escalates. These techniques are grounded in scientific research and will not only help you understand the minds of dangerous individuals, but also empower you to protect yourself and your loved ones. So let's get started. Let's take a look at these 7 criminal psychology techniques and learn how to spot those hidden warning signs of danger in human behavior. First up, we have social learning theory. Now, this was developed by psychologist Albert Bandura, and it explains that individuals learn behaviors by observing others. That's right, folks. We're talking about monkey see, monkey do. Now, this doesn't mean everyone who sees someone act aggressively is going to go out and do the same thing. But what it does mean is that potentially dangerous people often learn their own behavior patterns by watching the environment around them. They see violence, they see criminal acts, and it becomes ingrained in their minds as acceptable behavior. Think about the constant barrage of violence in movies, TV shows, and video games. For some individuals, especially those who are already predisposed to violence, this constant exposure can desensitize them and normalize aggressive behavior. Imagine a co-worker who frequently watches violent movies or news stories, and then you start to see them mimic some of the behavior. This kind of imitation can be a huge red flag that the person is picking up violent tendencies. Next, we're diving into the deep end with the dark triad theory. This theory examines 3 distinct personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Now, I know what you're thinking. These sound like fancy words for just being a jerk. And while that might be true to some extent, these traits, when combined, can be strong indicators of potentially dangerous individuals. Let's break it down. Narcissism, we all know what that is, right? An inflated sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, a lack of empathy for others. Then you've got Machiavellianism, which is basically being manipulative, cunning, and deceptive to get what you want. And finally, psychopathy, characterized by a lack of remorse, impulsivity, and antisocial behavior. Now imagine these 3 traits coming together in one person. You've got someone who thinks they're better than everyone else, who's willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate to get ahead. And who doesn't care who they hurt in the process? That's a recipe for disaster right there. We're going to talk about a little something called psychological projection. This is a common phenomenon in criminal psychology, particularly among potentially dangerous people. In a nutshell, these individuals project their own negative emotions or unethical behavior onto others. It's a classic defense mechanism. They can't handle their own issues, so they blame everyone else. Think of it this way: it's easier to point the finger at someone else than it is to look in the mirror and face your own demons. So, instead of acknowledging their own flaws, their own anger, their own dishonesty, they project those feelings onto others. And what's worse is that they often do this with such conviction that they actually believe what they're saying. Let's say you have a friend who's always accusing others of being unfaithful or dishonest. In this case, they may be unconsciously projecting their own behavior onto others. Now let's talk about the situational crime prevention theory. This theory tells us that criminal behavior often occurs in specific contexts. It's not just about the individual, it's about the environment they're in. So, what does this mean for spotting dangerous people? It means that potentially dangerous people often reveal their true colors in certain situations. Think about it like this. You can put a wolf in sheep's clothing, but sooner or later that wolf is going to revert to its true nature when the opportunity arises. These individuals might be able to keep their cool in everyday situations, but when the pressure's on, when they're faced with a challenge or a conflict, that's when their true colors start to show. The situation itself acts as a trigger, bringing out their underlying potential for dangerous behavior. Chapter 5, Control Theory. All right, let's dive into control theory. This one was developed by criminologist Travis Hershey, and it basically says that a person's self-control is closely linked to their likelihood of committing crimes. Now, This doesn't mean that everyone with low self-control is going to become a criminal, but it does mean that individuals with poor impulse control are more prone to making rash decisions, acting without thinking and engaging in risky behavior. You might know someone who constantly loses their temper over small things, who acts impulsively without thinking about the consequences. This lack of self-control could indicate that, in more stressful situations, they might act in even more extreme and dangerous ways. Chapter 6, Psychopathology Theory. This one's a bit heavier, psychopathology theory. This theory focuses on the link between mental disorders and criminal behavior. Now, it's important to note that having a mental illness does not automatically make someone dangerous, but certain mental health disorders, particularly when left untreated, can increase the risk of violent or criminal behavior. We're talking about conditions like antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and schizophrenia, to name a few. These disorders can impair judgment, impulse control, and emotional regulation, all of which can contribute to dangerous behavior. If these issues are left unchecked, their behavior could escalate and they could pose a threat to themselves or others. Chapter 7, De-individuation Theory. Last but not least, we have the de-individuation theory. This one's fascinating because it explains why individuals lose self-awareness and engage in extreme behavior when they're part of a group. You know the saying, mob mentality, that's what we're talking about here. When people are in a group, they feel anonymous, less accountable for their actions. They lose their sense of individuality and become more likely to conform to the group's norms, even if those norms involve harmful or dangerous behavior. Think about someone who's usually quiet and reserved when they're alone, but then when they're in a group, especially one engaging in risky or destructive behavior, they suddenly become a different person. Look, identifying potentially dangerous individuals is not an easy task, but these 7 criminal psychology techniques can help you understand the warning signs and stay one step ahead. From social learning theory to the dark triad, these scientific theories give us valuable tools to stay vigilant in our everyday lives. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about the factors that contribute to dangerous behavior, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself and your loved ones. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel for more insights into the criminal mind, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.